storage tanks. This is what they did with the Schoolcraft project. They actually had built a pipeline that went north, and I believe there's 2 other wells that go into this particular storage facility for the Schoolcraft project. And that's supposed to be what this next picture's showing you. I've shifted down the photo here, and on the bottom part, that's a surface location. So again, they drilled somewhat parallel with 275 South. This is the pipeline here, the dotted line. Going north, there's 7 Mile up here to this commercial area, and that's where the storage facility is at. Now that's where semis would come out there. They would pick up the oil, take it down to your local Marathon refinery in Detroit, and take care of the oil. Clean it up. Just some major distribution lines in Michigan. Most people are unaware of these. The ones on the left, those are all natural gas, and the ones on the right, those are all major oil pipelines. I know there's one that runs kind of on the west side. There's a big, I want to say it's a 32-inch high-pressure line that goes right through here somewhere. That's a natural gas one, but that, I can't zoom in on this thing, but certainly you can come up afterwards. I'll be around, questions I can't answer in the time allotted. Here's a picture of wells that West Bay is operating currently in the Oakland County and surrounding areas. Just a lot of them to the southwest over here. Actually, there's one right over here that's quite interesting, Kensington Park. I say we used to go there as kids when I was younger, and still do travel there once in a while. Again, I'm not down there. However, they have a producing well where the bottom hole location is right beneath Kent Lake down there. It's been there for 18 years producing. I don't know if any of you have ever seen any of the wells out there, but it's part of the goal here with the surface locations and when they have one. Okay, it's to cover it, not see it as best as possible, and let's go ahead and let's all benefit from the production that will come from these. This is a royalty example. Many of you may have seen this if you've been to Rochester. I think the city of Rochester meeting there, and some other. This is that State Troy well, MSU well again. Those two are the mineral interest holders. From the years of 2003 to 2011, the royalty that they collected was nearly $10 million. And that's a 40-acre unit. And that one is actually, it's a natural gas well too. It's not even an oil well, so it can be quite substantial. How have you guys already benefited? Through the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund. The program, the purpose of it is to acquire and develop properties. Funding is derived from royalties and leases from the state of Michigan here. Now, it started out small, but it's grown rapidly. Right now it's capped out at $500 million. And just the city of Rochester, city of Rochester Hills, just as grantees, just recipients of the fund, they've collected nearly $6 million from it. A lot of the rails to trail stuff, that's all acquired. A lot of it's acquired. Auburn Hills, just over $2 million. I think Bald Mountain out that way, there's been a recent $500,000 actual project that they just finished up. And you can go, Oakland County itself, $77 million they've taken from what they've been granted through this fund. They are the largest recipients of any county of the fund. They've taken more grants, more than any other county from this fund. So this is the lease itself. This is what you could expect to see with your lease, and it's very similar to the subdivision lease here. You have a lessor, that's the landowner. Who owns the land, the mineral rights? Lessee, West Bay Exploration Company. Granting clause, that's going to say it's not entry lease, okay? They're not coming on your land, they're not going to be drilling on your land. You're going to have a legal description. You define your lot, that's platted in the Thorn Ridge plat, this library page. Term of the lease, we've taken hundreds of 5-year leases in this area. That means that we have 5 years, and you can see with just a vast number of people, it takes a while to put these together. We have 5 years essentially to do something with your property. So we take your property, your neighbor's property, the common ground we would pool them together to form at least this minimum 40-acre unit here. Talks about the royalty here. All of the landowners, we paid all these subdivision lot landowners a 1/8 royalty. That would be their proportionate share within a unit. There's what I call an adjustment of ownership. Not everybody owns all of the minerals, if at all, if they even own them. The lease would allow us to adjust how much you could be paid based on your actual mineral ownership. It's a very thorough process. After we take a lease, before they would drill a well, they do these abstracts. It's way more intensive than any sort of title search that they do when you're selling your home well. Pooling and unitization. Again, that's when we take each one of your properties here, we put them together to form these units here that allows us to drill beneath them. Shut-in clause, basically what that says in the lease itself, that you have a producing well, but they're going to stop the flow of oil and or gas. Well, why would they do that? Two examples I give. One, they're not going to build a pipeline from Schoolcraft North if they don't know that they have a producing well. So they drill the well, they say, yep, it's a producing well, we're going to stop the flow of production here, and we're going to go ahead, build the pipeline, and then let it go. Natural gas prices, they bottomed out. So they stop the flow of production because when they go from $12 an MCF to $3 an MCF, they're not even making enough money, possibly, to even maintain the well itself. Those are reasons that you could see a shut-in well. The regulated authority, simple clause, says they have to abide by federal, state, and local laws. Assignability, the lease, the lessor, the landowner, or the lessee, West Bay, can assign the lease itself, meaning that essentially when you sell your house, you can give it to the next person that's down the line there. For the landowner, for the company itself, sometimes you'll see companies where they'll take them and they might sell them or get somebody else involved with it and they can assign part of the lease to them. Use of geophysical data, any sort of the seismic data that they would acquire through their testing. It's actually their data itself. You know, there's markets out there essentially for seismic data that some exploration companies, they just go and buy it themselves. This clause is just making sure that it's clear. Lessor indemnification, if there's concerns, issues that happen because of the operations itself, they, West Bay, would what they call hold harmless or indemnify, essentially, the landowner involved in a lawsuit. And the lease extension. Now, if they don't put together all these properties in that first 5 years, they can pay some more money and they'll buy them another 5 years to do these projects. Now, they don't necessarily like to do that because it's just costing them double the money for really that same lease, in a sense. So they like to put it together within that first primary term. And seismic minutes, again, there's already been some seismic data out on the county roads, but if after signing this lease, if there is some sort of concern or you felt like because they did seismic testing somewhere and it caused damage to it, and yeah, it makes sense, and yeah, it's reasonable, they would take care of that for you. Say, okay, well, what happened? Okay, I'm fine here. Okay, so order for payment. It's a separate document, but I like to say it's read with the oil and gas lease. It directs what we call a paid-up bonus. Okay, it's a lease. We're not buying the minerals from you. We're just renting them. You're giving us the right to develop. We have 60 days to do a title review, and that time to pay you. Often you get the W-9 with it, and that's because there are certain IRC reporting requirements. So, that's a very quick, abbreviated, as fast as I can go here. I believe Mr. Nash will be up here, and then I'll be available for questions. If we don't have time tonight, I have a lot of cards out there. My cell phone's on it. I'm actually driving over to Lansing tonight, so feel free to call me on the ride over there. We can talk more questions. Mary, T-shirt.
I would like to actually kind of have you up here with me, if that's okay, because I have some questions. You know, every one of these is different. You bunch of times that you won't be drilling here. Where will you be?
Oh, no, yeah.
So it has to be within a mile.
Yes.
No more than 2 miles.
So you will have your drilling rigs within a couple of miles. You're planning on another one of these pipelines to a tank farm or possible. So again, you'll be having an impact here. One of the big issues around drilling is the impact on the local community. Truck traffic. Assuming they're not going to drill on this property, which they don't have a development lease for, they will have a development lease nearby, so the traffic will be impacted in this area. I can't see it alternative. Right? We having trucks.
Are you asking me to agree with that?
No, I'm not asking you a question. Will we have, I'm living, sorry. Will these folks here have a lot of traffic on Adams, Steinken, what's the next road north here? Are we having traffic from these tank farms?
Yeah, they would, most of the traffic that you would see would be during the drilling phase, but again, that's the temporary part.
But you'll also be having a tank farm with trucks, you'll have to come and tank up. I mean, to take the fuel, the oil out of here to the facility.
Yeah, wherever they would put it.
Right, so within a couple of miles, you'll have tank farms, and a lot of trucks going on. There's issues around failure of concrete. Estimates have been somewhere around 4 or 5% of concrete facilities have leaks. That's been studied through universities across the country. There's been reports of that, significant reports of that. You mentioned that this concrete has to go 100 feet below aquifer, but 100 feet is not far when you're talking about significant long distances of horizontal pipes coming through for drilling. What are we doing with the gas? You're not going to be using gas, as you said, but there's gas in these wellheads. I mean, wherever there's oil, there's generally some sort of gas deposit, generally, right? So what do you do with the gas? Flare it, or?
It depends. It just depends on it. Sometimes they can pipe it into lines, sometimes they may flare it. It just all depends on the well itself.
So this is another kind of an unanswered question that we'll find out once we lease the property. Will you be using any water in these operations? Is this any kind of fracking going on? I know it's one of those pictures had the pipe at the bottom, the vertical pipe leaking with fracking.
No, actually in Oakland County, they've never actually fracked any well. So, and I think that I've already presented to you. I say in Oakland County, you don't have to take my word for it. It came from Jack Lanigan. He's the state geologist with the DEQ. Fracking has never occurred in Oakland County's history of oil and gas drilling. So you don't frack every well. It's not necessary. These are what they call conventional style wells. So it's really, they don't do it.
So you won't be fracking. Would that be any way of putting that into a lease arrangement? That would be something that we would say that we will not frack, we will not use water resources in doing these drills? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
See, I think that we've already discussed this.
No.
Not in this, I think, no, but we have told them. Okay. Well, yeah, no, and we'll do it, but I think what the proposal is. The proposal, and how I read it from them, it was that they would give them the opportunity to negotiate the lease. Now, certainly, every other lease that we have taken here, we can put it in. We've worked with subdivisions to the south and have done it. Again, it's never happened in Oakland County, okay? And that's what I'm telling you.
Can I clarify? Hi, Erin Howlett. I went to the Rochester City public hearing, and unfortunately we had a DEQ, which is the Department of Environmental Quality. That is the state regulatory agency for this. One of the geologists from there was there, and he qualified. We had a rep from Jordan there who was standing there with him, and someone asked what the technique would be. He said that we would be using, quote, about 100,000 gallons of water a day, and well completion would entail a 25% solution of hydrochloric acid, and then with that there are other stabilizing agents used to anti-emulsification, etc. So according to a document by the section 1-2011. It specifies volumes, basically. So their qualification is high volume hydraulic fracturing is 100,000 gallons of fluids a day. So we're kind of riding on that line. The other qualification that he made is the way that they're able to say that they're not fracking is because they hope to access an area geologically called an open fracture area. So it's a more highly permeable. So they don't have to use the high water and high pressures to actually create little fractures. And also they don't have to use, which is in the city's lease, what's called proppants. So it is exactly what it sounds like, a little prop. And that's sand or silica that once there's fractures there, it's like a little pup tent, a little prop to keep it open to facilitate extraction. So the rep from Jordan was there, Mr. Brower. He was standing right next to the DEQ geologist, and he said that's for this area in Rochester Hills, that's the procedure. So unless you have other information, so also I follow the financials a lot, so I've seen a lot of energy CEOs on CNBC and Bloomberg and whatnot, and I've heard them refer to this type. They say, well, for lack of a better term, I'll call it low volume fracking, or technically, as I researched energy, I was specifically kept to energy resources for researching, so I was very specific. It's kind of being called low volume well stimulation. So it's not high volume hydraulic fracturing according to the DEQ with this newly defined definition from 2011. So just to qualify, if you have any further information other than that.
No, it's very good. Yes.
Okay. And also, my question is, when you come to tell your mortgager this, are they really going to care? If it's, it's underneath 100,000 gallons of water. I mean, that's my thing. Are they really going to care that, you're underneath the state's newly defined, et cetera? So just so you know, that's the technique. And that's why some people in Brookdale Woods last year were worried about sinkholes and whatnot, because they were envisioning liquid reservoirs and like J.R. Ewing with pump jack, because they thought conventional oil meant liquid reservoirs when we were accessing open fracture areas of rock that we need to facilitate extraction. So also, there are professional chemistry journals that are talking about chemistry stability problems with cement recipes. Those recipes are still proprietary. So basically, just so you know, what you count on for safety is the cement stability and casings. The steel casings only go so far. Oh, the other thing, it's my impression that with Jordan and West Bay, they generally use spent wells as class 2 saltwater disposal wells. Is that correct?
I couldn't confirm that, but they do use spent wells as disposal wells, correct?
Okay, so that's
all drillers do that. It's
okay.
Common typical. Yeah.
So but that should be specified, because then once they've removed everything, wastewater goes back in and then they cap it, so that's there permanently, essentially. So
Yes, other
they
question.
not to take it.
Also, I think you just mentioned it about test wells. Are you doing any kind of baseline test wells?